Now I'm sure you're aware of how awesome of a camera the Canon EOS R10 is. But what's the difference between your R10 and a fully fledged cinema camera like the Canon C50 or C80? Other than the price. And obviously, the first thing that probably pops into your mind is image quality. And you'd be correct in thinking that. But what is it about the image quality of a cinema camera that makes it so much nicer than your Canon R10? So I'll give you a hint. It's not 6K resolution, and it's not 120 frames per second either. All right, I'll tell you. It's mainly two things: dynamic range and highlight roll-off. Dynamic range is the ability of your camera to capture the extremely dark parts of a scene, while at the same time being able to capture the extremely bright highlights. Another aspect of dynamic range is the ability of your camera to go through various levels of brightness without having harsh transitions between the darker and the lighter parts. This is what's known as highlight roll-off, and cinema cameras are typically going to have a beautiful highlight roll-off, which makes for very pleasing skin tones, while normal cameras are going to have a harsher roll-off. So those two things are really the main differences between the image quality of your Canon R10 versus a real deal cinema camera. But of course, when you spend that kind of money, you get other things as well, like various exposure tools like false color. You get XLR inputs. And while things like that are extremely nice to have, they don't really affect the image quality. And you could get the same results without necessarily having those things. But there is one more thing that most cinema cameras come with that is pretty important, and that's built-in ND filters. And there's a lot of advantages of having internal ND filters as opposed to those screw-on ones that you attach to the front of your lens. And what I'm about to share with you is going to give you all of those things for your Canon R10. It's going to give you internal NDs, it's going to boost your dynamic range, and it's going to improve your highlight roll-off. And not only is it going to do all of that, but it's going to do it at a pretty amazing price point. So check this out. So what I have here is the Mica drop-in ND filter adapter. And Mica took it to another level because not only is this an internal drop-in ND filter, but you can also purchase a CPL and a black mist filter. So the ND filter checks one of the boxes that we need in order to turn the R10 into a mini cinema camera. So now that only leaves two left: dynamic range and highlight roll-off. And that's where the other two filters come into play. So first, let's discuss the black mist filter, because it's going to do two things. It's going to soften the image and bloom the highlights, which gets rid of that digital look common in most mirrorless cameras and modern day lenses. And this will take the edge off of skin tones, hiding minor imperfections and blemishes, as well as improving the highlight roll-off and overall giving you a more cinematic image. So now that we have all that checked off, the only thing left to do is to boost the dynamic range, and that's where the CPL filter comes in. And it does a few things. Firstly, it reduces unwanted glare off of surfaces and skin tones. And it can also remove reflections off of shiny surfaces like glass and water. And that's why you see so many filmmakers and photographers using CPL filters anytime they're shooting vehicles, buildings, lakes, or anything that has reflective surfaces. But another thing that a CPL filter can do is increase the saturation at times when you're filming the sky, thereby giving you bluer skies. And this is especially useful for Canon footage, because although Canon colors are amazing, they do have a tendency for blown out highlights, especially when filming the sky. And so this is as close as we can get to increasing the dynamic range of the camera. And that's happening by manipulating the light before it hits the sensor. So it's increasing the dynamic range optically as opposed to in camera. So I think you can start to see why this is such an amazing adapter for the Canon R10. And what's even more amazing is that it's only about $180. And if you want the CPL filter, it's an additional $80. And I think the black mist filter is also around $80. Now, if you were to get all three, it is a significant investment. But keep in mind that it's still cheaper than many screw-on ND filter, CPL filter, and black mist filters. Especially considering that you have to buy different filter sizes for your various lenses. And that's the beauty of these drop-in filters, because once you attach it to your camera, you can use it with all of your lenses. But keep in mind that it can only be used with EF and EFS lenses, not RF lenses. And that's why it's called an adapter, because it allows you to expand your lens choices beyond the limited amount of lenses that are available in the RF mount. So if you already happen to have some EF or EFS lenses lying around, then you're in a perfect position. Now me personally, even though I own a bunch of RF mount cameras, to this day, I still haven't purchased any RF lenses because I have some awesome EF glass, like the Sigma 18-35 f1.8 and the Tamron 15-30 f2.8 and other lenses that I'll link to in the description below. And here's a bonus tip. One of the things that differentiates between beautiful cinematic footage and amateur footage is when you see the camera trying to hunt for focus. You know that slight pulsing that you get on the edges of the frame? That's pretty much a dead giveaway that really brings down the quality of your image. And so the solution is simply to use manual focus, so the camera isn't hunting for focus. And it's pretty simple, especially once you learn how to use focus peaking. But that's a topic for a different video. But the reason I brought it up is because it's another advantage of EF lenses over RF lenses. Because RF lenses are mostly focused by wire, which means that they focus electronically. And that's the beauty of using EF and EFS lenses with this adapter, because the autofocus works perfect. But whenever you want to switch into manual mode, you have an actual focusing mechanism so you can get those smooth focus pulls. I left links to all the things that I talked about in this video in the description below. If you got any value from this, make sure to smash the like button and sub to the channel so you don't miss future reviews and tutorials. So now that you know how to turn your Canon R10 into a mini cinema camera, I hope you go out there and get some amazing footage. But keep in mind, it's not only about the gear, it's mainly about your skills, which is exactly why you should watch this video next, where I talk about 5 filmmaking tips that every videographer should know. I appreciate you watching to the end, and I'll see you in the next one. It's Full Line Creative signing out. Peace.